In our last video, we started to talk about parenting and how can we be more intuitive in our parenting to help give our kids the best opportunity for them to have the kind of lives where they feel self-confident, they feel capable, they feel optimistic, and they feel a sense of freedom and the self-empowerment so that they can go out and create their own lives. Not your life, not anyone that came before them, not anyone that's going to come after them, but their lives. And while we focused on the beginning of talking about how we can help our children progress through the maturation process, we talked primarily about how do we help them develop if we're looking at the physical maturity aspects of growing up. Growing up is inevitable as far as the body will get taller, they'll get stronger, they'll get longer and bigger, but there are certain parameters that help that development become as purposeful and supportive to them as it possibly can. And as long as you're making sure that that's the backdrop of your general parenting with them, then it gives them an opportunity to be more whole and more energized and more alert as you're looking at some of the other areas in which parenting them with intuition can really help them to eventually soar. And of the 6 levels of maturation that our children experience under our wise wings, where we take them under our wings as they're growing, we are also going to look at emotional maturity, spiritual maturity, financial maturity, social maturity, and intellectual maturity. Today, what I would like to do is I'd like to talk somewhat about 2 of those maturation processes because they entwine themselves with all of the opportunities that we have to grow. And those 2 processes are the emotional and spiritual maturation process. Because if we are stilted or stunted or pressed down or not developing in those 2 areas, it makes it very difficult to attain a level of success or where we want to be or your child wants to be in the areas of financial and intellectual and social success, because it's the platform for them to be able to be decision makers that support what's in their best interest. It makes it difficult for them to be able to feel empowered that they can create life as they want it. It makes it difficult for them to be optimistic in their belief that the life that they want to live or how they want to be viewed or how they want to experience things around them, it's difficult for them to perceive that that's possible, let alone create it. And so I isolated both of those, emotional and spiritual, because they really are different. I see the emotional maturation process as helping our children to learn to be in the driver's seat of their own interactions, of their own responses to the world around them, to their own ownership of their participation in their journey. So I see the emotional aspects, even though it sounds like it's more vaporous or intangible, but I do see it relating more to the physical areas of their maturation than the spiritual part. The spiritual part can be a little bit more philosophical. So in the emotional maturation process, one of the most important things that we can do is to help our children to pause, to help them to ruminate, to help them to contemplate, to help them to think in a calm way before an experience that they might be uncomfortable about and during and after any experience as well. If you are modeling to them explosive responses, if you are modeling quick anger, if you're modeling a need to control or dominate them and their thoughts and their experiences or their actions, it's going to be hard for them to thrive in their own emotional development because what you're echoing to them is that the emotional strength that comes from within, from pausing, from contemplation. You're demonstrating that it doesn't matter. So one of the first things that you can do as an intuitive parent is to know when to step back, to know when to give them room to breathe, to understand how to tap into your own emotional wisdom, which if it doesn't feel good while you're doing it to anybody, and it doesn't feel good while you're doing it to your child, then maybe on some level it's not good. If you get that feeling, don't do it. If it doesn't feel good, then step back and you take a pause and you develop yourself emotionally and you say, what is my goal? Am I wanting to compel my child to regurgitate what I just said? Are you wanting to put this child in a bubble and not have them have experiences where they start to test their own strengths and capabilities, or have new opportunities to be with different people and different experiences? Are you wanting to have them live the way you would like them to live? Stop and pause and say, if you're becoming very adamant or forceful or commanding or loud or just going on and on and on and on, pause and think, what is the goal here? Am I looking for one singular behavior or action at this moment? Or am I really looking to develop this child throughout his or her entire lifetime to be able to be emotionally mature, to help them feel self-empowered and limitless? So if your goal is to bring your child there, then first you got to do a self-check in your parenting. So either suffocating, meaning you don't want them to have any broader experiences than they are presently having, or commanding and demanding, narrating and dictating endlessly, or losing your temper. Those are three behaviors that would be difficult for your child to learn emotional maturity within. So check yourself first. If you're committed to helping your child develop, and you know that the goal is, what does this kid feel like when he or she is fully grown? What is this person going to be like as an adult? If you know that's the goal, even if you have another immediate goal in front of you that seems so urgent, I don't want him to go to that party because the other parents, they don't really watch out for the kids, so I don't know what's going to happen there. Okay, so this is pressing on you right now in this second. But what's the end goal? What's the end goal? Have a quiet conversation. What do you think? Understand your own child's decision-making capability. Understand what opportunities for choosing a different path, even if this decision was already made. What does that child have to draw upon? Can they say, I went to the party and then I was uncomfortable, so, text dad and say, Dad, can you come pick me up? So give them opportunities to try experiences. It's not to say every invitation that they get is going to be the right one for you or for them or for the family. And there's going to be some that don't feel good all around and probably don't even feel good to your child. But there are some that are just unknown and filled with a lot of unknown for you. That if you eliminate your child's possibility of going or attending anything like that ever because it makes you feel safer, you got to reconnect to your end goal, to make this person be able to make choices, to have the freedom to be in different settings, to trust themselves, to use good judgment. I remember one of the first really stunning parenting moments where I kind of got some feedback about what this kind of intuitive parenting results in. It was Halloween, my oldest child, and she was 13, so middle school. And for the first time, I let her get together with a group of friends, and they were going to trick or treat together in a nearby neighborhood. Again, did she know what her options were? Did she have an expectation of, who she is when she's trick-or-treating with other 13-year-olds. Yeah, this is not the time when I have to tell her everything there is to know about life and manners and good deeds and good judgment. It's not that you don't wait till that moment, but you put a little bit of reminders out there. And after about maybe a half hour after I dropped her off, I get a cryptic phone call to come pick her up. And I did, and I went and I picked her up. And when she got in the car, she wouldn't say it in front of her friends, but she was uncomfortable. They had bought dozens of eggs. They had bought a ton of shaving cream. They had this whole wild ride planned. And because she was uncomfortable, she had the sense to say, I don't know, I think I ate like too much candy on an empty stomach already, and I think I gotta go home. I think I ruined my own night. So she got herself out of that situation. Now, imagine if I had said, no, I don't know these kids, I don't know the neighborhood, you're too young. How would she have been able to have the experience that she found within her the ability to make a good decision for herself? Do I want to postpone that until the day she graduates college? Hell no. By then, it's going to be really hard to learn to trust yourself. I'm not going to say it's too late, because it's possible, but it's going to be so much harder. So this is the thing. Would I have felt more comfortable if she were hanging out here or had a couple of friends over? Of course I would have been. But my children's life is not about what makes me the most comfortable. My life is about helping them to create the emotional strength that they need to help them in every situation in the future. Now, could she have made another choice? Could she have stayed? Could she have thrown eggs? Could she have been quiet? Could she have done any of that? She could have. And somehow, some way, since we are always operating with trust and communication between us, she would have discussed what happened anyway. And I could have guided her with insights into possible ways that she might have felt more comfortable in the following event or the following choice. Because we don't only learn to strengthen our emotional interaction by doing what's the most positive outcome every time. Sometimes we learn more from when we make a choice that doesn't get us to the best place. And no matter what, if your child is younger, the younger they are, the more easy on them the consequences of learning from their judgment choices earlier on. So the consequences, for example, of eating too much candy before dinner when they're at a friend's house at the age of 7 is going to be a heck of a lot worse than having an addiction to sugar and having diabetes when they're 40. So the consequences are much less at an age when they can think for themselves, when they can see the cause and the effect, when they can feel the outcome, when they are trusted to see and witness what the outcome of their choices are. If you constantly bombard them with a narrative of the consequence of their choices, or worse, take their choices away because you are afraid of what the consequences of any other choice will be, they can't develop that inner emotional wisdom. There are, always conversations about whether we are helicopter parents or tiger moms and all these words that we toss out there. No matter what, there's always a balance. There may be times when you're realizing, even though my child's intellectual or physical maturity is a little bit higher right now, I can see the emotionals laying a little low in this one area. So I'll put a little more guidance in there. Remember last time we talked about the bumper guards? So the bumper guards might have to be a little bit more helpful in that time. But the idea is give maybe a little tiny narrower area of development or possibility or experience for them in that one area and let them figure it out a little bit more, but then open and expand their possibilities in that area as well. The other thing that helps them to develop with maturity is the more you tell your kids what to do about everything, put the envelope back in the rack. No, put the cap back on the toothpaste. Put the toothpaste in here. Make your bed. Do this, do that. You need to keep your notebook cleaner. You need to study an hour and 40 minutes before a math test. You need to turn off the music when you're doing your English essay. The more we tell our kids what to do about every little detail of their lives, the less they can find that place, again, where they develop, where they choose, where they fail, where they grow, where they succeed, where they get the benefit of those failures and those successes. For this purpose of communicating a lot of information quickly, I don't mind using the word failure and success, but those are very oversimplified ways of saying what the journey of the soul in human form is. There really is no obvious success and there is no apparent failure. There's just different ways of journeying along our path. But let your kids fall, let them try, let them be in places that are unfamiliar to them. You can use general guidelines, but don't compound those general guidelines with all of your fears. Let them breathe, let them grow, and let them be alone. In some groups, I'll walk into a place where I'm making a speech and I can get this sensation from guides that probably the most important thing I can do for this group right now of parents is to give them one technique to improve their parenting. And that technique would be leave your children alone. Leave them alone. I don't mean taking a 7-year-old and, running to the mall for 6 hours, but I mean stay out of all of their business. Let them pack their backpack. Let them forget a homework assignment. Let them live their lives. Let them go to practice without their cleats. Let them come home after a whole practice when they didn't have their water bottle. Let them figure it out. Let them experience it. Don't make them turn to you for every decision that has to be made instead of finding out that they have the ability of packing a suitcase if they're going to their grandma's house for the weekend. Let them figure things out. That's how they're going to figure things out when they're older. And that's the basis for emotional maturity. Even just talking about helping to give our kids more breathing room and to help them develop a sense of knowing that they can trust their inner wisdom and their decision making and their choices. You can see it's a really big topic, as most topics related to parenting are. So what I'd like to do is just have you kind of think about these areas a little bit more, notice and witness your own behaviors with your children, see if you can temper things that you might want to pull back on for a little while. I really appreciate your comments. I thank you for being here. I know parenting can be like navigating a landmine, but you got this. Just stay the course and let the resonance of truths come into you and help to support you in the choices that you make with your kids.